Hello, world. What's up, guys? This is Dave Van Auken on the Fight Bananas podcast. How's everyone doing? Okay. So we have some pretty cool stuff going on right now. We are so pumped and excited. So before I kind of give away this little exciting news, thank everyone for listening, subscribing, downloading, man. We love it. We're so appreciative. It's been awesome. It's been really cool. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Mako Tech, Mouth Guards, Warhammer Fightwear, N-Stone Nutrition, Fusion CBD products. It's going to be great. We've got some great stuff. We are in the total corona effect right now. We just had 2 podcasts drop. We just talked to UFC's Jacob Kilburn. Get that? That's on YouTube. The John Raffer, the professor. Last night we had a great podcast. Him and I, we talked MMA for an hour and 15 minutes. It was awesome. What's the corona effect doing to MMA? We had some really cool topics and dialogue and discussions. So there's plenty of great content out there right now. But okay, here's the fun stuff. We kind of been teasing it, and we had a wrestling podcast a couple weeks ago talking about it and starting to break the ice a little bit. And one thing we have done, and we're kind of feel honored in a way, or just kind of, it's really cool. We have created this oak tree in Fight Bananas. And with the downloads and subscribers, we keep on mentioning how iHeartRadio always wants more content from us. And so we're going to give more content. And with this oak tree that we are with the Fight Bananas podcast, we are allowed now to have branches off this oak tree. We have one major podcast that are in the works right now, and if this kind of goes through, it's going to blow people's minds. We have a boxing one coming pretty soon, maybe the beginning of summer, late spring. But right now, we're going to kind of start. This is kind of the first podcast. This is kind of the first passing the baton. We are going to have a weekly, a couple episodes a week, sometimes bi-weekly. It's whenever that guy puts on the wrestling show for us. We're having Gary, that guy wrestling podcast, is officially now a part of the Fight Bananas family, the Fight Bananas umbrella. We're so pumped. We're going to have that guy, Gary, come on the podcast right now and talk to us what we're going to listen to, what's going to happen on the podcast, and so much more. We're so excited to have a professional wrestling podcast, a part of the Fight Bananas pod. All right, guys, here we go. We are in touch with that guy. We kind of talked about it a little bit in the intro, but all right. We have a professional wrestling podcast, a part of this Fight Bananas umbrella. My man, Gary, that guy, how you doing, brother?
I am doing wonderful. So excited to be part of the Fight Bananas umbrella. So excited to be on here talking a little bit of wrestling. And it is an interesting time to be a wrestling fan at the moment.
Oh my! It's bananas. It's absolutely crazy. First of all, okay, so before we go into very topical and the whole corona effect on professional wrestling and all of that business, how often and what's kind of right now your game plan? Is there anything you do want, like a little spoilers, or anything you do want to kind of, tease or spoiler, put on the dirt sheets, like they say in the biz, out there to the people that are listening to this for the first time because of its wrestling? How much are you going to talk to the people here on the Fight Bananas umbrella?
Well, I'll answer that 2 parts. So the first, ideally, I'm going to try and get on there at least once a week or so. There is so much wrestling content out there to discuss constantly, so many hours a week of wonderful programming to watch and to discuss and to talk about. So yeah, that's the game plan overall. And you mentioned the word spoiler a few times, and I'll say right from the start, I am not a fan of spoilers at all. I feel like when it comes to movies and television, we go out of our way to avoid finding any kind of spoilers and details, and we lose friendships and we cause fights if you ruin the ending of a movie like Endgame or Star Wars. Yet for some reason, when it comes to professional wrestling, we seem to want to go out of our way to find out who's going to win matches before they even happen. Wow. I don't know why anybody would want to know who's going to win the Royal Rumble 3 months ahead of time. Who's going to win the major matches at WrestleMania months ahead of time? Why, as wrestling fans, do you want that? I don't. So I'm happy to discuss, what's happening, we can speculate all we want on what we think might happen, what we think should happen. But I'm not a big fan of trying to read too much into the dirt sheets and find out some hidden information about who's going to win well before it happens.
Okay. No, I actually like that. I dig that. I dig that, like Macho Man and Slim Jim? Slap Jim? What did he used to eat?
Slim Jim,
Slim
brother.
Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Dig it. Oh, man, cool. All right, so we'll get into the juicy topic, the steak, the filet of right now professional wrestling. We keep on the C word, the coronavirus. They have moved WrestleMania, canceling events, the last weeks of Raw and SmackDown. Now they've been at the Performance Center in Orlando with no crowd. It's just a different feel. I watched the show. I had an awesome podcast. We were live last night. I was in the lab with John Radford, and then I got home and I watched the show, and it was a 3-hour Raw that I literally watched it in 12 minutes. I kind of watched Undertaker look at a TV screen at AJ Styles and watched Stone Cold read cue cards, and that was it. I was like, I don't know how long they can do this for. Well, so let's kind of talk on that. What's your take so far on the action SmackDown and Raw that we saw last 5 days at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida?
Well, I'm gonna start from a positive perspective because again, it's something. This is a thing that I enjoy very much, and so let's talk about what was good about what we saw. I'm very happy and proud that the WWE is still putting something on. All the rest of the sports obviously have been postponed or canceled or whatnot. So there's nothing for people to do that are interested in those things. Movie theaters are closing, so there's no movies to go see. So for, worst case scenario, they're at least still putting shows out there. And you're right. It was strange. It's weird to see, to see them performing without a crowd because the crowd reaction is so integral to their art, to what they do. So yeah, it's weird. It's tough for them. I have no idea what goes on behind in creating these shows in this past week, because obviously they were understaffed, which is why they replayed some matches during the shows. But you said you don't know how long it can go on. Well, it kind of is taken out of their hands, really. They don't have a lot of choice in these aspects. So, okay. Very disappointing WrestleMania news.
Right, and we'll get into that in 1 second. My last question is: so, do you think that they can just, for the next, just say, 30 days has been this number out there, and they're saying it could go longer, but everything you've been hearing is 30 days. Florida's really shutting down bars and nightclubs and movie theaters for 30 days. So if they shut this down for 30 days, so you think we're going to see 4 more Raws, 4 more SmackDowns at the PC with no crowd? Is that kind of your take? Is that what you think is going to happen?
At least. I would say at least.
Wow.
I'm fortunate enough to go to Full Sail every Wednesday for the NXT tapings, and I was notified that they will not be hosting any there until the beginning of May. At the earliest. So that's 6 weeks away.
Wow.
Now, who knows? Again, this is kind of a day by day. You mentioned bars and nightclubs closing. That is breaking news. That's new stuff. And so we are kind of all taking this one day at a time. So, if it's 30 days, then yeah, they proudly brag about being the longest running episodic TV show out there. So they're certainly not going to not have a show. They're certainly not going to cancel Monday Night Raw. So, if they have to have it at the Performance Center, then they will.
Yeah, wow.
It's unfortunate that it's this time of the year because, some of these shows are the best ones of the year. They do know how to turn it on come WrestleMania season.
Right.
You mentioned talking about The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin. They bring these legends back. They bring out new storylines. They really step up their game to build excitement for a show that, is theoretically designed to be done in front of 70,000 people. And now it has a potential of being done in front of nobody. So. Right.
And so, okay, so here's kind of my all sports. It's really weird how the timing of all this, and I kind of thought about how weird it was and how it affected WrestleMania, to anyone who's not, if you're listening to this podcast, yeah, you probably are a diehard wrestling fan. So, I don't want to go so mainstream here, but WrestleMania is the Super Bowl, is NASCAR, Daytona 500, NBA Finals, all that, cliche stuff. Basketball, they're kind of hopefully cutting the end of the season, but still going to have a playoffs. Baseball, they're going to not start on time. Imagine if this thing happened. Football's over. We're hearing free agent stuff. It's been a lot of crazy stuff. Stephon Diggs to the Bills. Okay, I dig. But there's so much. Imagine if this kind of, the virus would have happened. The three of the AFC, divisional games, like the big games of football or the big college football games. And to me, that's kind of what's happening in wrestling. We got 3 weeks left, less than 3 weeks. And to me, these are usually the biggest, shows, the crescendo of all this year. Usually there's a huge payoff for a good guy, good girl, bad guy, bad, whatever it is, or just a rivalry. This Edge Orton thing we'll, maybe get into as well. All these awesome crescendos here at WrestleMania. And then this is when the virus has happened, where America is shutting down, and it's like WrestleMania, yeah, Tampa, Florida, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. There's going to be over 70,000 people. They got this pirate ship. I think someone was going to jump off of it. It's going to be amazing. It's outside. We've been to 7, 8 WrestleManias. There's nothing better. And they literally, it's been 50 hours, 40 hours, whatever it has been. They're like, no, we can't do it. We can't have fans there. We can't have people travel. A lot of people from other countries go to WrestleMania. All that's shut down. All that is gone. All that is done. They're going to have WrestleMania there at the Performance Center in a small, tiny arena with no one there. This is, it's like mind-blowing. Like, doesn't matter what happens at this WrestleMania, who wins or loses, this one will always be remembered. This one will always be special, even in a bad way. And I think this is in a bad way, but it will always have an asterisk by it, I guess, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they continually talk about attendance records each time they host WrestleMania at one of these football stadiums, and they get very excited about how many people they can draw to it. And it's going to be really, really odd having no people in the crowd. And the only, as you mentioned, this is their biggest time of the year. I mean, those other sports were relatively lucky from a scheduling standpoint. The only one that had it as bad as the WWE, it would obviously be college basketball losing their March Madness tournament. But yeah, it would have been really interesting to see it happen to the NFL, like you said, 3 weeks before the Super Bowl, and to see what they would have done. And it's kind of sad. It's unfortunate, and the wheels were in motion on so many of these wrestling storylines that you couldn't just stop. You couldn't cancel it. You couldn't put it off. You couldn't wait 2 months or 3 months for this all to end, because there is no definite timeline of when things are going to kind of go back to normal. So they really were put in a really tough position with not a lot of options, unfortunately. So, and again, as somebody who had tickets to WrestleMania this year, it was not a good thing this morning when I saw a notification from Ticketmaster that my event had been canceled.
Crazy. Wow. So crazy. So as a fan and someone who, covers it, is going to talk about it on a weekly basis now, where can we start? Like, how can this WrestleMania, how can it be salvaged? How can we move on? Is it just saying, hey, let's try to put on the best matches as possible? That's kind of, it looks like, hey, let's put the title on Reigns. Let's put the title on McIntyre to beat Lesnar, to beat Goldberg. Let's kind of give everyone probably exactly what they want. Maybe literally the 9 matches, 10 matches. Boom, get them there. I don't think there's going to be any battle royal, because they can't have useless people. You know what I mean? It has to be strict about how many people are there. Like, where does the event? What can they do? That Sunday, you turn it off, you're watching it with your family or watching it with your son, and it's like, you turn it off, be like, wow, they did it. Like, the WWE took this horrible situation, this huge negative, and they spun it around, and it's just it was an amazing show. I was entertained for 4 hours. I loved it. I'm going to watch it again, and I will always remember this WrestleMania. What can they do to salvage it?
A couple of things. For one, as you mentioned, the results need to be in a way that makes the fans happy. Whatever the majority of the fans, or whoever they're pulling for, the ultimate results are. That's what they need to go with. They need to end the show on a high note, on a positive note. And as far as a crowd, I really do hope that they, this is still almost 3 weeks away. I hope they find a way to be able to put somebody out there. And I had mentioned this to you, that I think if they can call this a work-related event, and like you said, you mentioned not having any of the quote-unquote useless or lesser wrestlers there, but if they can find a way to have everybody there and put the wrestlers in the crowd, I think that would create an amazing atmosphere. I think the idea of watching, the wrestlers who aren't in the match, watching their coworkers perform and put on a show, I think would really, just give it a whole different vibe and different feel. It's going to be, unique, as you mentioned. I don't know about if an asterisk is the right term, but it's going to be different. And for, most of wrestling fans, 99.9% of them weren't going to be there anyway. They were going to be watching it on TV. And so while, yes, they won't have shots where they're cut into the crowd, and, you won't hear that, you're still going to see the matches that you've been wanting to see, and you're going to hopefully get the results you wanted, and hopefully they put on a show. And plus, if this, again, is still the only sporting entertainment, league that's still going, I mean, we're all sad that we have had no NBA and all these other sports are canceled. And it's been a few days.
Right.
Think about how we're all going to feel after a month. A month of no NBA, a month where Major League Baseball, that should be opening weekend. It should be starting then. Football season, the NFL might get pushed back, so just the idea of having this entertainment to watch, I think is going to be uplifting to the people, hopefully. I know I'm going to be excited. I'm going to enjoy sitting there with my family. I know we're going to enjoy watching it, and I hope that they put on a good show.
Dude, that's awesome. Two things I thought of, because, you mentioned that to me last night when we were talking about it. So one was all they need to do, if the WWE is smart, just don't have New Day in any matches and just make them in the crowd. So every time you have a ring entrance, you got them playing the instruments, because no one does it better than the New Day. Like every guitar riff and any kind of entrance music, they are the best. They're John Bon Jovi. It's amazing. So that they should have the New Day in the crowd. And then second, I thought about, do they have probably an extra 23 minutes of the show because there's no walkouts? WrestleMania, usually at a football stadium like Tampa Bay Bucks where they play, there's this huge long ramp. At the Performance Center, it's like 8 feet. Like The Undertaker, it's kind of like an ongoing joke. Usually his WrestleMania entrance is longer than his match. No, not at the Performance Center. He's going to be there in 22 seconds. It's a thing. So
it really is. It really was strange last night hearing his gong hit a couple of times and then have him be in the ring before, within a few seconds, as opposed to, slow walk down a lengthy entranceway, like you said. So yeah, it will be significantly shorter. It will make it a little easier, to watch, from that perspective. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, nobody does it better than the New Day, but I think in general, I think, like I said, if you can get as many wrestlers in the crowd, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever they can spare, put them out there, because, I mean, in most cases, they are fans of wrestling, which is what got them into it. And they also typically don't know what's going to happen like we don't.
Right.
I mean,
right.
What's going to happen in your own match. But beyond that, you oftentimes, most wrestlers aren't aware. They can speculate. They can talk with each other. They can think what they think should happen or might happen, but oftentimes they don't really know. So to get some interesting, genuine reaction, I think they would have a great time with it. I think you would see a lot of, New Day style dancing and singing from wrestlers that you don't normally see it from, just because, they want to help create that experience that you would have if you had actual fans in the stands.
Right. No, great point. A couple last things, and then, I'll let you take some stuff away, or, if you had anything else you want to really talk on, or, kind of press the people on what they're going to hear in the upcoming weeks. I'll let you have it, at the end. But we're talking to Gary. We're talking to That Guy, wrestling podcast, professional wrestling podcast. I'm now on the Fight Bananas umbrella. It's awesome. I'm so happy to have you on. So I was thinking about this with all the matches, and I don't want to break it down because maybe you're going to have a WrestleMania preview show. I don't know if you're going to do it or have someone else. I don't know if you and I are going to do it. We'll get into that later. And I don't want to break down every match, but my question of the relocation of the Performance Center and not having the crowd and not being at night, all that entailed. What match? McIntyre, Lesnar, Goldberg, Reigns, the tag team title match, Sami Zayn Intercontinental Championship, the female. There's 3 female title matches, or should be. What match loses the most? Now it's at the Performance Center with no crowd. What match are you going to be like, man, I really wanted to see that in a stadium, in a big field? It's so really cool. They usually have fireworks at night, and it's awesome. It's we've been there. It's 2 years ago in Orlando. There's nothing like being outdoors in a stadium watching WrestleMania. What match loses the most because they're at the Performance Center with no crowd?
That is a great question, and maybe I will have to have you on there for the WrestleMania preview if you can. Keep coming up with these wonderful questions. Well, I think there's a couple that stand out to me, and we already talked about The Undertaker, and, there is nothing like an Undertaker entrance, especially at WrestleMania. He has that aura and he has that presence about him. So this is why, as much as he isn't quite the same in the ring as he once was, we still, as fans, typically enjoy having him and get excited to see him because he's still this magical character and he does, so much with that. But as far as other matches themselves, honestly, if you think about last year, what made last year's WrestleMania entertaining and the best parts of it were the fact that you had Seth Rollins dethroning Brock Lesnar. You had Kofi Kingston beating Daniel Bryan. And then even to a lesser extent, Becky Lynch winning the title and beating Ronda and Charlotte. So you had these moments where you had these stars who you were, as fans, really rooting for. And it makes that moment so magical when you feel that 3 count coming and the entire audience is counting along with the ref, yelling 1, 2, 3, and everybody, all their arms go up at the same time, and everybody, it's goosebump. You get goosebumps. You get tingling. Like if you're there in that crowd, and even watching it at home, you just feel for those wrestlers. You feel that energy and that intensity. Watching Kofi Kingston win that title last year, how much it meant having all of those people around. So if we get some of those moments this year, it's definitely going to miss out. I assume most of us are rooting for Drew McIntyre to beat Brock Lesnar and have him lose that title, and it'll be cool, but it's not going to have that same impact without 70,000 arms going up in unison at the same time, cheering their lungs out. So that's what's going to be the biggest miss, the thing we're going to miss the most, watching it on TV in that manner. Right.
And I think usually with WrestleMania, and probably my favorite WrestleMania ever, and we were there together, WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles. It was when Batista and Cena both won the title, both young guys beating older guys, we kind of having that. But 2 of the coolest things were not even matches, were they had a Stone Cold, little thing that he did with Roddy Piper, which, Carlito came out, and that was just awesome. And then a surprise of Hulk Hogan, and that was really cool. And it was just like moments, kind of like, promos and that kind of jazz. And, it kind of made the show that much longer because it had other matches with Angle and Michaels and Undertaker and Orton. It was just so stacked, and then have these huge moments. I feel like they are not going to have kind of like those moments this year because you need that crowd, or, Roddy Piper can't be out there just talking to no one. It would just be really weird, I feel like, if someone comes out, like CM Punk comes out and cuts a promo. It's like, there's no one there. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. And maybe could have happened in Tampa in front of 75,000 and says, hey, whoever wins that Lesnar McIntyre, or how about this? He goes, hey, Reigns and Goldberg, I'm next, and it'll be like, oh my gosh, Punk is back. I just feel like they won't have those moments now at this year's Mania. Am I off on that?
No, you're probably right. Like you said, hearing CM Punk's music hit, hearing Hulk Hogan's music hit, hearing anything of that nature to an empty arena, it's just, it's not going to have the same impact. It's not going to work quite as well. And so, they may really have to focus on the wrestling, on the storytelling and the matches themselves. And then, I guess the blessing could be maybe as the year goes on, some of these things that they might have had planned for Mania will get extended through the summer into the later parts of the year.
Right. Okay. I got two last things for you. And like I said, if they go through this alley and if you have more, go with it. If not, we'll end it with two more things. Last two things is one, if, maybe they're MMA fans like John Radford. I was talking to him last night and he came over the house 3-4 times last year to watch wrestling. And all 3 times because Ronda Rousey was in the main event, and kind of that was the crossover for John Radford, who's an MMA fan, to watch WWE again. So if you, a lot of MMA fans listen to this show, and if you had to say, okay, guys, here's one thing, here's one moment, I'm going to go to YouTube, I'm going to get the link, and I'm going to put it now on the Fight Bananas Facebook page for everyone to watch. What moment, what thing in the last year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years that maybe if these guys haven't been fans of professional wrestling, WWE, AEW, anything in the last 20 years, what moment would you want to have the mainstream people watch to be like, okay, guys, watch this moment, listen to this That's Guy Wrestling podcast and come back. Come back to us. What's that moment?
There's quite a few moments, and this is another good question. You caught me a little off guard with this one. But there is when Daniel Bryan won the main event at WrestleMania, the promos and the build-ups, you could have just if you watched the promo video, even if you hadn't been following along for months and years, you would have seen the growing Yes movement that built him up. And put him in the position he was in. You would have seen the fan support, the Yes chants and whatnot, and then watching that match, watching him make Batista tap out, and watching the entire crowd. I mean, again, the in New Orleans, caught me off guard. Not the Silver Dome.
Superdome.
The Superdome. There it is. Thank you. The Superdome. And again, 70,000+ fans in the Superdome. All doing the Yes chants, confetti and fireworks and everything going on. The amount of support you see. I mean, again, I've followed many sports and I've watched plenty of UFC, NFL, whatever, NBA, MLB, and you cheer for moments and whatever else, but so many times the game ends and you walk out and that's it. You're not like in unison at the end of an NBA game, like all standing, feet cheering, really pumping up with the team and chanting and screaming and yelling. I mean, me and you have worked near the Daytona Speedway during races and seen fans walking out with, 20 laps to go in the race. So,
right.
You just don't get that in wrestling. Like you stay to the end to experience that moment. And to do that with the wrestler that you were there rooting for, you're not ready to walk out the door before the show is even over. So that's what makes wrestling different. The fan energy, the fan support, the wrestlers' involvement with the fans. So many of them are so good to their fans, and they're such good people and so enjoyable to meet. So that's what I really like about wrestling. And again, as an MMA fan, if you're interested in watching the action, watching the storytelling, I mean, WWE is right there for you.
Wow. Okay, so Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30. Like I said, we'll get a YouTube link. We'll get a picture. We'll put it on the Fight Bananas, the Instagram page, Fight Bananas Official, the Facebook stuff, Fight Bananas, and we'll do like a little Daniel Bryan promo. But hey, man, you got to learn these things. It's all about social media. We got to tweet it out and twerk it out and Instagram it and IG it and the book.
Oh yeah, that stuff's coming. That Guy's Wrestling Podcast, Instagram and Twitter are in the works. They'll be up and ready to run shortly. The other moment I thought about mentioning too was CM Punk versus John Cena, but I know MMA fans, they probably don't think too highly of CM Punk. They don't appreciate how great he was at professional wrestling because he didn't quite make it in the UFC like he had hoped.
Right.
So,
but no, that's got to be top 3, maybe top 2 moments for me. It's absolutely CM Punk, Chicago, beating Cena for the title. Man, you said it. No crowd was louder, longer, bigger. It was just insane. It was bananas. It was. That might be number one for me.
That's the other one that came to mind right when you asked me that question. But I felt like the Daniel Bryan one was, just a very positive vibe, and it's, just again someone slightly different than, that they might not have already heard of.
There you go. Okay. Cool, man. Well, yeah, I'm ready to wrap it up. Like I said, I want you, what do you think, is next in the foreseeable next 2-3 weeks? What are people, are you going to do recaps of shows? Are you going to do more of a, maybe once a week or, twice a week? Are we going to have a, WrestleMania preview? If something major happens, CM Punk comes out on SmackDown and challenges, Coco Beware to a WrestleMania match? Are you getting on? Like, what do you think is going to happen in the next 2-3 weeks and then going forward on That Guy's Wrestling podcast?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have a preview episode, and I'll try and save that for a little bit closer, to WrestleMania itself. I will definitely try and put out at least episodes, before then as well. This is like historic times that we're living in, not just for wrestling, but for our country. So there's going to be a lot, there's a lot going on. I'm not here to discuss and analyze, the complete world around me. I'm going to take it from the wrestling fans' perspective. So yeah, there's stuff changing literally day by day. We don't know quite when, what's going to happen each week on each episode, each show, who they're going to get. There might be a big wrestler that was planning to have a match at WrestleMania that gets affected with the coronavirus between now and WrestleMania, and then all of a sudden that match is off the card. Maybe that wrestler was practicing with another wrestler who infected, a few more. You really never know. So there's a lot of fluidity, to what's coming up. So I'll do my best to discuss it, analyze it, again, like I said, make some predictions and just have some good conversation, and enjoy discussing, with you and whatever guests I can get on board, this wonderful, entertaining topic that many of us have been enjoying for our entire lives. So.
Very cool. Wow, we're excited. We can't wait. Can't wait for what the listeners say. It's just anyone that's listening, it's just going to be literally right underneath this Fight Bananas banner. Still downloading, subscribing on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, any podcast platform. All this content is going to go on YouTube. It's just more. We're just giving the people more content. Content is king. So I started it out saying, bro, like, I feel the Fight Bananas is this oak tree, and we're so pumped because now it's a branch. A huge branch has came out. We have a couple other branches in the works as well, and it's just so awesome to have this oak tree, and now we can branch out and do other things and other ideas. We got a boxing podcast coming out. We have one podcast that's, we're trying to get these 2 other men to jump on board, which we're that close of getting. It's just going to be huge. So it's exciting time, and we're so happy and honored to have you a part of Fight Bananas family, and we're pumped, man. I can't wait. I'll be listening every week, twice a week, whenever you put it out. I'm definitely there. That Guy's Wrestling podcast. I'm a fan. I'm in.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate being that branch of your tree. It's a wonderful thing. You guys do put out some great content. It's wonderful to be part of this wrestling one. And yeah, wrestling is really a huge entertainment. There's a reason why that UFC fighters want to join. There's a reason why former NFL players like Rob Gronkowski are looking to join the WWE. There's a reason why Fox paid $1 billion to show SmackDown on Friday nights. So yeah, there's a lot of entertainment value to the WWE and a lot to discuss. And I'm, like I said, grateful to be a part of the Fight Bananas team. And subscribe, download, and keep an eye out for the That Guy's Wrestling podcast.
Wow, there we go. That's a promo right there. That one's in the books. WrestleMania bound. I cannot wait. Yeah, we're done. We hope everyone keep on listening, subscribing. Big things are happening, and this was the transitional episode of That Guy's Wrestling podcast. All right, brother, have a good one.
All right, you too. Thanks.